President Trump is facing mounting pressure to respond to claims that Saudi Arabia's crown prince ordered the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. Sources tell CBS News that intelligence from the CIA indicates Mohammed bin Salman made the call to have the Washington Post columnist killed. The Saudi government has denied the accusations. Khashoggi was killed after entering the Saudi consulate in Istanbul last month. During an interview with Fox News, President Trump said the crown prince had people close to him that were, quote, probably involved.
Turkish President Erdogan says that he has shared a tape with the U.S. and other countries that is of the killing of Jamal Khashoggi inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Have you, one, either heard the tape yourself or been briefed on it? And if so, to your mind, what does it show?
We have the tape. I don't want to hear the tape. No reason for me to hear the tape.
Why don't you want to hear it, sir?
Because it's a suffering tape. It's a terrible tape. I've been fully briefed on it. There's no reason for me to hear it. In fact, I said to the people, should I? They said, you really shouldn't.
Joining me now is Associated Press White House reporter Jill Colvin. Jill, thanks so much for being with us. Now, the president said Saturday his administration will get a full report on the killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi this week. What type of response can we expect from the White House following this report?
You know, it's really interesting. You know, sources have told you, they've also told the Associated Press, that the CIA, that intelligence agencies believe that it was the Crown Prince who was behind this assassination. The president, however, as we've seen again and again, has been very reluctant to accept any type of suggestion that the Crown Prince might be involved. The president and the Crown Prince have developed a very close relationship. The president says that the King and Crown Prince have both assured him multiple times in conversations that they had nothing to do with this, that they had no knowledge of this. And so it'll be interesting to see, as more of the intelligence seeps out, whether the president's opinion, his public position, changes. That said, at this point, you know, the U.S. government has already put sanctions on 17 Saudi officials. The president at this point has been very, very reluctant, however, to take the next step, which many in Congress are urging him to do, which would be to pull back on those arms sales that the president has been so excited about.
It's a delicate next step. So let's talk a little bit about how does the administration weigh all this pressure that they're getting from lawmakers compared to the U.S. relationship with Saudi Arabia when they're deciding how to respond to this?
Yeah, I mean, it's very clear that this is a very conflicted situation. The president and the United States government have put so much stock in their relationship with the Saudi government when it comes to the entire Mideast strategy here and their position of trying to build pressure against Iran and trying to provide some measure of power in the region against Iran. And the president has been extremely reluctant to even acknowledge the idea that the Saudis may have misled him, despite the fact that if we go back just a couple of weeks, the Saudis denied that Khashoggi was even killed. They have denied again and again and been proven to have not been correct again and again. And we've seen the president sort of have to adjust to that reality. And so it'll be very interesting going forward to see how the administration chooses to respond to this. We've already seen some very strong pressure coming from members on the Hill, including allies of the president like Lindsey Graham, who've been urging the president to take some harsher steps here. And they also have some power to be able to try to at least attempt to stop temporarily these arms sales.
Well, in that same interview, President Trump, of course, criticized retired Navy SEAL Admiral William McRaven. He, of course, led the 2011 military operation that took out Osama bin Laden. He has also been a vocal critic of President Trump. I want to play some of that sound.
Wouldn't it have been nice if we got Osama bin Laden a lot sooner than that? Wouldn't it have been nice? You know, think of this, living in Pakistan, beautifully in Pakistan, in what I guess they considered a nice mansion. I don't know, I've seen nicer. But living in Pakistan, right next to the military academy, everybody in Pakistan knew he was there. And we give Pakistan $1.3 billion a year. And they don't tell him? They don't tell him?
You're not even going to give them credit for taking down bin Laden?
They took him down, but...
The president also called McRaven a, quote, Hillary Clinton backer. So what's been the reaction to the president's comments?
Well, there has been a very strong negative reaction to the president's comments here. Look, whenever the president goes after a military official, especially somebody who is as highly respected as McRaven is, you hear from all sorts of people, from Congress, former military officials, current military officials, calling the president out for this kind of attack. You know, we saw the president here immediately trying to discredit McRaven for his political views. And McRaven was out today talking about the fact that he didn't support anybody in the 2016 election. He told CNN earlier today that he was a supporter and respected both President Obama as well as former Republican President Bush. You know, this is what you see when the president is somebody who, whenever he is criticized, feels the need to lash out at people, even when they are, you know, folks of high standing like this. You know, the president, John McRaven, has been somebody who's been very critical of the president, you know, describing his attacks on reporters as the most significant challenge to democracy that he's seen in his lifetime. And the president, once again, kind of lashing out, punching harder in this kind of pattern that we've seen him do again and again.
Well, this obviously didn't come in isolation. This comes less than a week after the president failed to visit Arlington Cemetery on Veterans Day. So are there concerns that all of these different events may hurt his relationship with the military?
Absolutely. And the president's relationship with the military, it's interesting because the president likes to tout all the time how supportive he's been of the troops. The fact that the budgets that he has signed into law have provided more funding for the military than under Barack Obama. He likes to talk about how much he's done for veterans. But on the flip side of that, you see these actions that have again and again really been criticized by folks who are in the military. You've got the president's decision not to go to Arlington National Cemetery, which is something that, you know, former presidents have done every year. That came right on the heels of the president having to cancel that visit in Paris to the American Cemetery because of the fog cover and the rain back in Paris last weekend. You've also had the president doing other things that really raise eyebrows among critics. One, for instance, is his decision right before the midterm elections to deploy troops to the southern border in response to this caravan of Central American migrants that were headed towards the border. And a lot of individuals saw that as really a politicization of the military, sending as many, he said, as many as 15,000 troops to the border, when many folks believe that there wasn't anything to protect the border against.
Exactly, and no authority to actually do much down there for the military. All right, switching to special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. President Trump said he has prepared written answers to questions from investigators, but he appears to have ruled out sitting down for an interview with investigators.
Is that your final position, that there's going to be no sit-down interview and nothing written or in person on obstruction?
I would say probably. Probably. I mean, I can change my mind, but probably. I think we've wasted enough time on this witch hunt, and the answer is probably. We're finished.
The president had previously said that he would be willing to do a sit-down interview. So do we know what here prompted the change of heart?
Look, the president is very frustrated with this investigation. He wants it to come to an end. The president's legal team, which includes people like Rudy Giuliani, have been very strongly in his ear, telling him that they believe that the safest position going forward is for the president to only answer written questions. You know, there's been concern in the president's legal team, also in the White House counsel's office, that having the president sit down for an interview would be a really dangerous preposition for the president, because he's someone who has a tendency to exaggerate. He's somebody who has a tendency to say things that aren't true, and the concern is that if he sits down there with expert investigators, with these expert questioners, these prosecutors, that he could wind up entrapping himself. It's something that Rudy Giuliani has talked about pretty frequently, and so they believe that the safest option here is for the president to answer these questions. The president now says that he has done so. It's unclear exactly what the scope of the questions is, but the president says that he's the one who came up with the answer answers. They sort of wrote them down. They went over the answers a couple of times, but it looks like the president believes that his work here is done. That doesn't necessarily mean at all that that is the case. We know that the president has refused here to answer any questions on the obstruction of justice questions, and it remains to be seen whether Mueller's team chooses at some point down the line to subpoena the president for responses to questions that he didn't answer.
Interesting indeed. As a recovering lawyer, it does sound like he's getting some pretty solid advice. Answering written questions certainly beats sitting down with investigators, all those risks. All right, Jill Colvin, thank you so much.
Thank you.